You ever defend someone so hard for so long that when the truth finally comes out, it hits 10 times worse? Because that's exactly what people are saying is happening right now with Nicki Minaj. For years, she stood by her husband, Kenneth Petty. Through the criticism, through the backlash, through all the questions fans kept asking, she didn't just defend him, she fought for him, publicly, loudly, over and over again. But now, everything is starting to fall apart. Because according to rumors blowing up online right now, again, these are unconfirmed reports, Kenneth has allegedly been caught cheating, not just once, but with multiple women. And if that wasn't enough, there are also claims that one of those situations may have led to a pregnancy. Yeah, you heard that right. And the timing? That's what's making this even crazier. Because fans started noticing something strange. Nicki went quiet. No usual reactions. No posts. No clapbacks. Then suddenly, people spotted a change that raised even more questions. Kenneth reportedly changed his address and moved out of the mansion. That's when everything started connecting. And the internet lost it. Because now, people aren't just asking if he cheated. They're asking, did this situation finally push Nicki to her breaking point? And if that's true, then what she does next might shock everyone. To understand why this situation feels so explosive right now, you have to look at the history because this didn't just come out of nowhere. This has been building for years. And at the center of it all is one name, Nicki Minaj. Now, if you've followed Nicki's career even a little, you already know she's not someone who backs down easily. Whether it's music, business, or personal life, she's always been vocal, confident, and unapologetic about her choices. And that includes her relationship with Kenneth Petty. Because from the moment their relationship became public, it wasn't smooth. It wasn't quiet. It wasn't universally supported. In fact, it was controversial from the start. Fans had questions, a lot of them, about his past, about his history, about whether this was the right move for someone at Nicki's level. And instead of staying silent, Nicki responded, directly, repeatedly. She defended him in interviews. She defended him on social media. She made it clear that no matter what people said, she was standing by him. And that's what made this situation different. Because this wasn't a low-profile relationship. This was something she publicly protected, something she chose to fight for. Which means now, if things are really falling apart, it hits harder. Because it's not just about the relationship. It's about everything she put behind it. Her reputation, her image, her loyalty. And for years, she didn't waver. Even when people brought up his past, even when criticism got loud, even when fans warned her, she stayed firm, which is why what's happening now feels so significant. Because the rumors currently spreading online again, these are unconfirmed, aren't just about cheating. They're about betrayal. Because it's one thing for a relationship to have issues, it's another for those issues to play out publicly, after everything that's been said and defended over the years. And that's where the timeline starts getting interesting. Because over the past few weeks, fans began noticing a shift. At first, it was subtle. Nicki wasn't as active online. No major reactions. No usual engagement. And if you know her, that's unusual. Because she's known for speaking her mind, especially when something big is happening. So when she goes quiet, people notice. Then came the second detail. The one that really made people start connecting dots. Kenneth's reported address change. Now, because of his legal status, any change like that becomes visible through public records. And according to what fans found, his address no longer matched Nicki's mansion. Instead, it pointed to a much smaller location in Queens. And that detail, that's what set everything off. Because now the speculation wasn't just emotional. It had something concrete to point to. Why move out? Why now? What happened? And that's when the rumors escalated. Because alongside that discovery, stories started spreading. Claims of cheating, claims of multiple women. And then, the biggest one, the alleged pregnancy. Now again, this is important. These are internet rumors, not confirmed facts. But in the world of viral content, the combination of silence plus movement plus speculation, that's all it takes. Because now, people aren't just guessing, they're building a narrative. And once that narrative forms, it spreads fast. But here's where things get deeper. Because this isn't just about what's happening right now. It's about how it connects to everything that came before. Because over the years, NICKI has built a reputation not just as an artist, but as someone who stands by her people no matter what. And that loyalty, it's something her fans have always respected. But it's also something that's been questioned, especially when it comes to the men she's defended, which is why this moment feels different. Because now the question isn't just, did something happen? It's, was this always going to happen? And that's a much bigger conversation, because it shifts the focus from one situation to a pattern, to a cycle. And once people start thinking like that, everything changes. Because now every past moment gets re-examined, every statement gets revisited, every defense gets questioned. And that's exactly what's happening right now. Fans are going back, looking at old interviews, old posts, old responses, trying to understand how we got here. And the deeper they go, the more complicated it gets. Because this isn't a simple story. It's layered, it's emotional, and it's public in a way that makes it impossible to ignore. Which brings us to where we are now. A situation where rumors are spreading fast, silence is raising questions, and actions are being analyzed in real time. And at the center of it all is Nicki Minaj, a global superstar who might be dealing with one of the most personal and public situations of her life. And if what people are saying is even partially true, then what comes next might be bigger than anyone expected. And this is where everything stops feeling like just rumors and starts feeling like something real might actually be happening behind the scenes. Because once fans locked onto that address, change tied to Kenneth Petty, the entire narrative shifted overnight. Now it wasn't just speculation. There was a timeline, a movement, something that people could point to and say, okay, this doesn't look normal. Because let's be honest, people don't just randomly move out of a $20 million mansion into a much smaller place unless something serious is going on. And that's when the internet did what it always does. It started digging old posts, old blind items, old rumors that never got confirmed at the time. All of it started resurfacing at once. And suddenly, what used to look like isolated whispers started forming a pattern. Because multiple online sources, again, these are claims, not confirmed facts, started saying the same thing, that Kenneth had been stepping out. Not once, not twice, but repeatedly. Different women, different situations, and possibly for a while. Now, normally, cheating rumors alone would be enough to cause chaos, but this situation didn't stop there. Because the moment things really exploded was when that pregnancy rumor entered the conversation. The idea that one of those alleged relationships might have gone further than anyone expected. And once that hit social media, everything went nuclear. Because now, this wasn't just about betrayal. It was about humiliation. Public humiliation. Because people immediately started connecting it back to Nicki Minaj. The way she defended him. The way she shut down critics. The way she stood 10 toes behind him no matter what people said. And now, those same people were coming back, saying, "We tried to tell you." And that's what made this moment so intense. Because it wasn't just new drama, it was old conversations coming back to life. But here's where the first major twist hits. Because instead of Nicki jumping online, instead of her responding the way she usually does, she stayed silent. No posts, no rants, no direct response, nothing. And that silence, it spoke louder than anything she could have said. Because this is someone known for addressing everything, clapping back, setting the record straight. So when she doesn't, people assume something is different, something serious, something that can't just be handled with a tweet. And that's when the narrative shifted again. Because now people weren't just asking, did he cheat? They were asking, did she finally reach her limit? And that's a completely different conversation. Because it suggests something bigger, a breaking point. A moment where everything that's been building finally becomes too much to ignore. And that's what people believe might be happening right now. But here's where things take another turn. Because while all of this is blowing up publicly, there are also claims, again, unverified, that this situation isn't just about cheating. Some sources are suggesting there may be other issues behind the scenes. More serious ones. The kind that don't just create drama, but create real consequences. Now again, we don't have confirmation on those details. But the fact that those conversations are even happening, that alone is enough to keep people locked in. Because now, the story isn't just messy, It's layered, complicated, potentially much darker than it first appeared. And that's what's keeping this situation trending. Because every time it feels like we understand what's going on, another layer gets added, another question gets raised, another possibility gets introduced. And then there's this part. Because while all of this is happening online, the public reaction to NICKI herself has started shifting. Some people are supporting her, saying she deserves better, saying she's finally seeing what others saw all along. But then there are others who aren't holding back at all, calling her out, saying she ignored warning signs, saying she defended the wrong person for too long. And that divide, it's getting louder. Because now, this isn't just about Kenneth. It's about her choices, her decisions, her loyalty, and whether that loyalty was misplaced. Which is why this moment feels so big. Because it's not just a relationship issue anymore. It's a reputation moment, a turning point, the kind of situation that can change how people see you moving forward. And right now, we don't know how it's going to play out. Because everything is still unfolding, in real time, with no clear answers, no confirmations, just a growing list of questions. And that's what makes this so unpredictable. Because depending on what comes out next, this could go in completely different directions. Either it gets shut down, proven false, and everything resets, or something real surfaces. And this becomes one of the biggest celebrity relationship scandals we've seen in a long time. And based on how fast this is escalating, a lot of people think we're heading toward the second option. Because stories like this don't just disappear. Not when there's this much attention, this much speculation, this many moving pieces. So now the real question is, what happens when the silence finally breaks? Because when it does, it might change everything. And just when it felt like the situation couldn't get any messier, it did. Because while the internet was already going crazy over the cheating rumors and that alleged pregnancy, another layer started surfacing, and this one made everything feel a lot darker. Because now, people weren't just talking about what Kenneth Petty allegedly did recently. They started going back, way back, digging into his past, digging into old cases, old headlines, old controversies, and connecting those to what's being said now. And once that started happening, the tone of the conversation changed instantly. Because now, it wasn't just about a relationship falling apart. It became about a pattern, a history, and whether any of this should really be surprising. But here's where things get even more intense. Because alongside all that digging, more rumors started circulating. And again, these are unverified claims, but they spread fast. Some people began saying the situation wasn't just about cheating or pregnancy, but about control. Allegations that behind the scenes, there may have been issues involving influence over NICKI's decisions, her money, even her personal habits. Now, there's no confirmed proof of that. But in the world of viral drama, the suggestion alone is enough to explode the conversation. Because now, the narrative isn't just, he betrayed her. It becomes, was there something deeper going on this whole time? And that question, that's what pulled even more people into the story. Because it makes everything feel bigger, more serious, more complicated. And then came the moment that really shifted public perception. Because fans started pointing out something that had been right in front of them the whole time. Nicki Minaj has a history of standing by the people close to her, even when things get controversial, even when others step away. And now, people are re-examining that pattern in real time, bringing up old situations, old defenses, old statements, trying to connect them to what's happening now. And that's where things get uncomfortable. Because once people start building a pattern, they stop looking at events individually. They start seeing everything as connected. And that's exactly what's happening here. But it doesn't stop there. Because while all of this is happening publicly, the silence from NICKI is still holding. And that silence is doing more than any statement could right now. Because the longer it continues, the more people speculate. Some are saying she's handling things privately. Others believe she's waiting for legal clarity. And then there are those who think she's quiet because this situation is bigger than we realize. And that last idea, that's what's fueling everything. Because it suggests there's more details, more truth, more that hasn't come out yet. And when people believe there's more to uncover, they don't let go. They dig harder. They watch closer. They wait. And that's exactly where we are right now. Waiting. Because everyone knows one thing for sure. This story isn't finished. Not even close. Because situations like this don't just stop at rumors. They either get confirmed or completely shut down. And right now, we're stuck in the middle. But here's the shocking reveal that changes how you look at everything. Because if even a fraction of these rumors turn out to be true, then this isn't just a messy situation. It's a complete collapse. A collapse of trust, reputation, and everything that was built publicly over the years. And that's what makes this moment so critical. Because depending on what comes next, this could either be a temporary storm or a permanent shift in how people view NICKI and her entire situation. And that's not something that happens often at this level. Because for someone with her influence, moments like this define eras. They don't just pass, they stick. And they reshape narratives moving forward, which is why the pressure right now is at an all-time high. Because fans aren't just watching for drama anymore, they're watching for answers, for clarity, for something that finally explains what's really going on. And until that happens, this situation is only going to grow. More theories, more speculation, more attention. Because when a story reaches this level, it doesn't fade. It builds and builds until something finally breaks. And based on everything we've seen so far, that breaking point might be closer than we think. At this point, the situation wasn't just trending. It was dominating everything. Everywhere you looked, TikTok, Twitter, YouTube, blogs, people were talking about Nicki Minaj and the rumors surrounding Kenneth Petty. And just like every major celebrity scandal, the internet split instantly. On one side, you had people defending Nicki. They were saying, she held it down for years. She stayed loyal when most wouldn't. She deserves better. For them, this wasn't complicated. If even part of the cheating rumors are true again, unconfirmed, then this is a clear case of betrayal. And the sympathy? It started growing. Because people remember how hard she defended him, how loud she was about standing by him. So now, seeing her possibly go through this, it feels personal to a lot of fans. But then, there's the other side. And they're not holding back at all. Because they're saying, she ignored all the warning signs. People told her from the beginning, this isn't new, it's just public now. And that's where the tension really builds. Because now the conversation isn't just about what Kenneth allegedly did, it's about Nicki's choices, her decisions, her loyalty, and whether that loyalty was misplaced. And that kind of debate, it doesn't stay quiet. It gets louder, fast. But it didn't stop with fans. Content creators jumped in immediately, breaking down every detail, analyzing timelines, comparing old statements to what's happening now, trying to piece together what might actually be going on. And once that happens, the story gets even bigger. Because now, it's not just reactions, it's narratives. Different versions of the same story spreading at the same time. Some focusing on betrayal, others focusing on patterns, others pushing even darker interpretations. And that's what keeps the situation alive. Because when there's no clear answer, people fill in the gaps themselves. And those gaps are getting filled with some of the most extreme possibilities. But here's where things take another turn. Because while fans are debating and creators are analyzing, industry voices are starting to react too. Not directly, not with names, but with subtle posts, cryptic message, statements that feel like they're connected without actually saying it. Things like, loyalty can cost you everything. Some lessons come too late. And the timing? Way too perfect to ignore. Because even without direct confirmation, people connect those dots instantly. And that adds another layer of intensity. Because now it feels like the situation isn't just being watched, it's being acknowledged. Quietly, but noticeably. And then there's this part. Because while everything is blowing up publicly, Nicki's silence is still the loudest thing in the room. No statement, no denial, no response to the rumors. And that silence is being interpreted in every possible way. Some say she's protecting her peace. Others say she's dealing with things privately. And then there are those who believe she's waiting for the right moment to respond. And that idea, that something is coming, is what's keeping people locked in. Because everyone is expecting something. A post, a statement, a reaction, something that finally addresses everything. But until that happens, the speculation doesn't stop. It grows. Because the longer the silence continues, the more people assume there's something serious behind it. And that's where we are right now. A situation where rumors are spreading, opinions are divided, and the main person involved hasn't said a word. And that combination, that's what makes this moment so explosive. Because it means everything is still open, still unresolved, still building. Which leads to the biggest question everyone is asking right now. What happens when NICKI finally speaks? Because when she does, it won't just be another post. It will be the moment that defines this entire situation. And depending on what she says, it could either calm everything down or blow it up even more. And based on how intense this has already gotten, a lot of people think we haven't even seen the biggest part yet. And just when it feels like this story has already reached its peak, this is where everything flips. Because the biggest twist isn't just what Kenneth Petty allegedly did, it's what Nicki Minaj hasn't done. She hasn't spoken. Not once. No denial. No confirmation. No emotional reaction. Just silence. And that silence, it's louder than anything else in this entire situation. Because this is someone who has never had a problem addressing drama. If anything, she's known for it. Clapping back. Speaking her mind. Shutting narratives down immediately. But now, nothing. And that's what makes this moment feel different. Because when someone who usually reacts instantly goes completely quiet, it raises a much bigger question. Why? Because silence like this usually means one of two things. Either there's nothing to respond to, or there's something too serious to handle publicly. And that second possibility, that's what's making this situation feel so intense right now. Because if there really are deeper issues behind the scenes, then what we're seeing online might only be a small part of the story. But here's where the final twist really hits. Because while everyone is focused on the rumors, the alleged cheating, and that possible pregnancy, something else is happening. A shift. A quiet shift in how NICKI is being perceived. Because for years, she controlled her narrative. She decided what people saw, what people believed, what people focused on. But now, that control is slipping. Not because she said anything, but because she didn't. Because in the absence of a response, the internet creates its own story. And right now, that story is growing fast. Different versions, different theories, different conclusions, all spreading at the same time. And once that happens, it becomes very hard to take control back. Which is why this moment is so critical. Because whatever happens next will define how this entire situation is remembered. If she speaks and shuts everything down, the narrative resets. If she confirms parts of it, it explodes even more. And if she stays silent, then the speculation continues. And possibly gets even bigger. But here's the part that should really make you think. Because this situation isn't just about one relationship. It's about everything that led up to it. Every defense. Every statement. Every moment where she stood by him publicly. Because now, all of that is being reevaluated. And that's what makes this so heavy. Because it's not just a current situation, it's a past being questioned in real time. And once that happens, there's no going back. Because people don't forget moments like this. They remember them. They revisit them. They use them to define what comes next. Which is why this feels like a turning point. Not just for the relationship, but for her entire public image. Because moments like this, they don't just pass, they reshape everything. And that's what makes the next move so important. Because right now, everyone is watching, waiting, refreshing, trying to catch that first sign of a response. Because when it comes, it won't just be a reaction, it will be a statement, a decision, a moment that either ends this narrative or takes it to a completely different level. So now the only question left is, what happens when the silence finally breaks? Because when it does, it might change everything. Now I want to hear from you, because this is one of those situations where everyone has a different take. Do you think Nicki Minaj is staying silent because she's handling everything privately? Or because this situation is bigger than we realize? And what about Kenneth Petty? Do you think the rumors are being blown out of proportion? Or is there something real behind all of this? Be honest in the comments, I'm reading everything, and the opinions on this are completely split right now. But don't just give a quick answer. Explain it. What convinced you? Was it the silence? the timeline, the way everything started connecting. And here's the biggest question of all. If this situation turns out to be true, do you think this changes everything for NICKI moving forward? Or will she bounce back like she always does? Make sure you like, subscribe, and turn on notifications, because if anything new drops in this story, you already know we're breaking it down immediately. And trust me, this story is not over. Not even close. There are still too many unanswered questions, too many rumors, too much attention for this to just disappear. So stay locked in, because the next update might be the one that flips everything.